Welcome back to the Joint Dynamics Intelligent Movement Series podcast. My name's Andrew Cox. I'm one of the owners and directors of a company called Joint Dynamics here in Hong Kong. And today, my special guest is Doug Woodring. So Doug is the founder and managing director of an NGO based in Hong Kong doing global work called the Ocean Recovery Alliance. And a little side note, Doug is also been inducted into the International Open Water Swimming Hall of Fame. Welcome to the podcast, Doug. How are you?
Good to see you again.
Great to see you as well. We were just hanging out recently at the Steelcase Dragon Run.
That's right.
In which you competed again.
Yep.
And we
paddling and swimming are the water sports, but good that we went way back into the water polo.
Yeah, exactly. We played for Hong Kong in the water polo. That was awesome.
That's right.
Side note, when I first moved to Hong Kong, played water polo in Australia, I thought, what am I going to do with myself? Went down to the pool and started playing water polo with the Hong Kong team. It was so much fun. That was really cool. That was good fun. And now I just really only see you and Doug.
Yeah.
As a result of that, another Doug, another Blake. Yeah. Hey, Doug, let's talk about Ocean Recovery Alliance first. Can you elaborate on what is the Ocean Recovery Alliance and the work that you're doing?
Yeah. So I set this up about 12 years ago. Not probably, but a lot of a result because of my use of the water in the sports. Paddling and open water swimming, diving. I used to run some of the largest ocean swims in Asia here. And so when you're in the water a lot, you see the problems a lot more than the normal person who's walking down the street in a pretty clean city like Hong Kong, where the garbage gets picked up pretty regularly and you don't feel the pain. But when you're in the water, a plastic bag comes up to your face, so you think it's a shark, or it gets on your rudder and you got to jump off during a race, or you're diving and all the other things that we know. You see, wow, this is a big problem and it's global, and plastic pollution is kind of like smog. It floats and it goes to other places once it gets into the ocean. And that's what really got me started. I had also worked in the Japanese fishing industry when I got right out of university from the U.S. I lived in Japan 2 years. And that gave me also a inside feeling of how the fishing industry is, I would say, often harming the ocean because of exploitation and overfishing that's unregulated and unknown. Most consumers don't really realize where their seafood comes from and how it's caught or how it's raised. And that stuck with me for so many years. I said, someday I'm going to help the ocean. But I, at that time, didn't really have the power or the means or the know-how what to do. And, lo and behold, this NGO came into my thinking, but it wasn't planned at all. I just wanted to do one project to go out to the North Pacific Gyre, which we did in 2009. And we studied, we're the first group to study where that all the plastic was in the middle of the ocean with Scripps Oceanography, who we brought with us on that trip. And it was the first time.
The ocean vortex? Is that that's
the plastic
size of
vortex.
Texas?
Right.
Excuse me. The size of Texas, excuse me. Yeah.
Yeah, but what it is not is a big island that people think. And so, there's some images there that people think, wow, it's so big, you can go out with a big crane and just pick it up. How come no one's done that? Well, it's not. It's 1 million square miles, and it's all the water samples we took had plastic in them.
Elaborate on that. What do you mean all the water samples?
So we took samples of plastic from 300 micron small nets, which are usually used for catching, for looking for algae and different microorganisms. And you do water sampling every 2 hours at 1 knot for 15 minutes. And so every little batch of water that sample comes out of the net, you can check to see if there's organic matter or plastic in those little nets. And we found it in every single sample for the whole 3.5 weeks of our trip.
At what depths are we talking?
This was surface. That's a good question. But we did, and we're the first to ever use a ozeki trawl, which is a Japanese name, but it's a giant net about the size of this room that goes down 500 meters.
Whoa.
And you troll with that for a certain period of time, and then you bring it up, and then you see what's inside. And so we found a hatchet fish, which actually only live, this was kind of significant because they only live at depth. They don't migrate to the surface and eat at night like many fish do and migrate back down. Vertical migration, not horizontal. And one of those fish that usually lives down there had plastic in its stomach at 270 meters. And another one we found at 180 meters.
Well, that's significant.
So what it meant is there's three-dimensionality to this plastic. It wasn't just the surface. It floats or it sinks, and it has different characteristics of buoyancy. And some are higher, some come down. In fact, most people don't realize when you throw plastic in that water, almost 2/3 of it will sink right away because it's just more dense than water. The things that you see are the ones that happen to float more than others, which is styrofoam, plastic bottles. Plastic bottles will sink if they don't have air in them. But a lot of them have air in them because the top is still on, and therefore they float around like a little sailboat.
Which is my image of the plastic vortex, is this image of just an ocean, strange way, a mass of plastic bottles. But where is most of that coming from, plastic bottles? Or I've heard that the fashion industry, microfibers.
Well, now that the people have really started testing so many different things since we did this first big expedition, there's so much more knowledge now. So there is looking at microfibers and microplastics. So we don't spend a lot of time on that topic because we as a global community can't hardly get macroplastic figured out. Macro is just a normal piece of plastic, which is garbage. And we can't even pick up our own garbage and fix our littering problems. And often it's not because people want to litter that there's trash somewhere, but it's because the infrastructure and the systems in the cities and the towns and the villages just doesn't exist, and it was never invested in. The government didn't have money. And in many countries, the option is just to dump it, usually in a river, because the river takes it away from your house, or burning it. And 40% of the world waste today is just burned in a front yard somewhere and not even incinerated or waste energy. And a lot of environmentalists don't like those two options, but at least they usually have scrubbers and anti-toxicity devices on them. Whereas if you just burn it in your front yard, which is what so many people and communities still do, you get toxicity right into the air with all the plastic. You get respiratory problems if you're right close to it. And it creates soot, the carbon black, which is very bad for global warming because it sits in the air and it absorbs heat. And that's something that's still not even talked about today in this whole fight for ocean plastic and pollution issues. The ocean is the end recipient of our bad activities. And it's the gravitational pull that we all think is sexy and save the whale and save the turtle. But it's all coming from land. And so everything we do in our work now is on prevention and land and, better policy, better recycling, better packaging, all of those kind of programs. Because once it gets in the water, it's kind of gone.
So just before I rewind that conversation for a second, I thought, is this mostly coming from developing nations, or am I being ignorant in the sense when you said, burning, I don't see that happening in Hong Kong, or let's say where I'm from in Australia, or where you're from in the United States,
right?
Or is it? Is it out of sight, out of mind, or is it mostly developing nations where we need to help?
Yeah, very good question. So it's mostly developing nations for that issue. Most cities in the developed world have a waste management system. They have trucks that come by and they want to get the waste off the street so there are no rats and disease and all of that. And they do that pretty well. But in bigger places like Australia, US, they quickly take it to a landfill because it's cheaper to just dump it in land and then move on and get on the next day then try to sort it and clean it and reprocess it and recycle it. So the U.S. and the bigger countries control it better. Doesn't mean that we recycle better. In fact, in the contrary, the developing world is actually almost better at recycling, because it's a whole value system of getting materials that are worth something and getting them back into a system to an aggregator, a buyer, a middleman who will take them, whether that's glass, paper, metal, and plastic. Problem with plastic is it's only a few types of plastic that are more valuable than the other ones, and all the hard to recycle and therefore low value will never get collected. And if you're a informal waste collector, of which there's 15 to 20 million around the world, keeping our world clean, I mean, these guys are like the unsung heroes, because if we didn't have them, the whole world would be a mess. They know what they're doing, they know what to pick up. But if you think about your labor and your time, if you could find a bunch of metal, which is heavy and dense, a bunch of paper, which is heavy and dense, you're going to grab that and take it to the trading shop and get some money for 20 kilos. If you're trying to do 20 kilos of plastic and it's blown, uncompressed plastic bottles, it's the size of this room, but it only weighs 15 kilos. There's no money in it.
I've seen some of those photos from India, where you've got the guys on the push bikes,
Exactly.
surrounded by a massive crowd of plastic.
That's right. Yeah, there's no densification. If you densify and grind and shred stuff, you could take away 9 times as many trucks to move the same amount of material. So again, why are these things not happening? Uncompressed plastic bottles for a truck to go to some village and pick up 1 ton, that's about 40,000 bottles that might fill up his truck. It's only worth about $300 US or $350. If you at least just shred it and have it cleaned a bit, then you could have 9 times as much volume, weight in that one truck. So you have 9 less trucks on the road, 9 times less pollution, 9 times less issues with bad roads, and the guy, whoever sold it, is worth $4,500 and not $350. And
some see what that would lead to.
This could really change the world, but this is not what is happening. We need millions of these little machines that mobilize, engage people around the world to be able to be these little entrepreneurs to get into the supply chain of moving material, but no one has it. And it's too cheap for a bank to supply, too cheap for the World Bank. It's not big equipment and super machines like you might get in a big city.
Just out of curiosity, essentially it's a paper shredder for plastic.
Yeah. And for a compressor or a baler. So I'll be seeing like these big, super strong strength, and they just bale it, and then they wrap it with some wires, and then it becomes a block of plastic. Grab me that little plastic bottle there. Yeah. So, think of this. This is just plastic wrapping air, and this is what trash is.
Yeah.
And so all the plastic bottles out there is plastic wrapping air. It's so inefficient when it's in the garbage can. It fills up everything right away. There's no value in weight, and that's one of the challenges with recycling and why it doesn't get done. So the developing world, as you said, does do more burning and more just because they don't have the resources. But then you think about the population, islands, mountainous areas, big rains, black rains, typhoons, hurricanes, all these weather events combined with lack of waste management near the rivers and the watersheds and the barangays and the little villages just means that the floods, which take anything that's lightweight, right out the gutter, right out the drain, right into the river, right into the ocean. And no one's had the resources to kind of stop that and slow it down yet.
Just almost, because you mentioned, I wanted to introduce you as an environmental crusader, and you were saying, well, actually the term now is environmental actionist.
Environmental fine term.
Action. I love it. And also an environmental entrepreneur, you're saying. It's almost jumping ahead to a strategy, but when you speak about the paper shredder, the plastic paper shredder, or the compression device. For example, how much are they? Like, just say if you were to go to a village, I'm just saying, Philippines, could be India, could be probably Australia, it doesn't matter. But just say if you went to a village, and let's say developing nation, where they were utilising plastic and they were burning plastic and they weren't recycling plastic, and then someone came in from the ocean recovery lines and said, we have a way in which to help you, we'll educate you on how to use it, and here's the device. How much does that cost? Like, what are those?
Could be, if it's used, could be $2,000, $2,000, $5,000.
And $10 US.
US dollars.
US.
Which is not very much.
And how long would that last?
But this is the problem. It's so cheap that but you can't bank it. You can't invest in it. You can't. If it's a shredder, the main reason why it goes problematic is you get rocks or some pebbles in it, and then the blade gets dull quickly. So you've got to just have someone who knows how to sharpen the blades, and anyone who has a propeller in a boat kind of knows how to do that.
Yeah.
So it's not rocket science at all, but it's knowledge about what types of plastic. If you want to separate them, they're worth more money if they're all separated in their different categories. But that's what a lot of people do know how to do, but then they don't have the compressor or the shredder.
Well, the electricity.
You don't even have the electricity to do that. But that's fine. You can still sort it by hand. You could still compress some things and get it to the next bigger village or city where there is this capacity to have that. And then that aggregator who collects from many people can sell it to, into the system where there's a big recycler who can really use that material. And that's the system that really just doesn't work yet right now around the world.
Remember years ago, I don't know how many years ago, though, but I was talking to you, and remember you were putting an electricity generator through a treadmill? Remember an old school gym, California, wasn't it? You worked with that scientist.
Yeah.
That's when you're into tidal energy and all that.
That's right.
Can we potentially get one of these shredders, hook it up to a stationary bike and get the locals get ripped legs? Is there or no?
You probably need a bit more power than that, but for certain types of material, you could do that if it was lighter weight. I mean, the thing is with the thin films, this is one of the challenges that even the bigger developed countries have is our waste systems in the cities, which they call material recovery facilities. They were pretty good for working out and dividing and conquering paper, glass, and metal. Metal, you can use magnetics to extract. Paper, you can use blowers and whatever, and the glass. But plastic comes along, and there's so many types, and there's so many rigid parts, thick parts, and then there's the thin films and the bags. And those just get wrapped up around your machinery and equipment, so it breaks down, and then you have to redo it. So the system just haven't been set up to handle the myriad of types of plastic. So even the West can't do a very good job. They don't want to spend the money to do it because the cost of labor is too high, and machinery. So this is the world's issue. Some countries do incinerate and make waste energy. Japan does a lot of that. Singapore does a lot of it.
With plastic, you burn plastic.
All waste. Always, including plastic, and plastic has more energy level, which you need in dealing with wet waste, which is your organics and things. So some countries do just get rid of it that way because they don't have the land. But
that generates energy that might go back into the grid, for example.
Yeah, completely goes in the grid. Even runs swimming pools and ice skating rinks, and very clean and very high tech. Some other countries don't have that high tech, but they still use incinerators and the waste to energy angle. A lot of cement kilns need high temperature to make the cement, and a lot of countries use waste as a feedstock into the cement kiln. But now we're getting the technicalities
but just plastic it's a petroleum based product, correct?
Mainly, unless it's a biomaterial. So but 98% of the world's plastic today is still petroleum based.
And there's no way in which we can take that plastic bottle that is petroleum based and somehow reconvert it into a usable fuel source like petrol. So just say we go out to the plastic vortex and then there's a massive boat with a scoop that scoops all the plastic bottles up and puts it through this thing that reconverts it into petrol from petroleum, and then uses that boat, that engineer to keep driving the boat for about 50 years, like it did in the sides of Texas.
Yeah, well,
is that?
Well, it's scientific. Many people have thought about that already, including us many years back. It's not possible because, as I said at the very beginning, the density of the plastic on the surface is not there. It's not a big island. You can hardly see it with your naked eye. It's only some big pieces that are floating, and so you don't. There's no efficiency of trying to go 5 or 6 days into the ocean. It's the most farthest away point in the planet Earth that you could get to, because you could fly into Antarctica if you wanted in one day. I mean, you couldn't fly out there because there's nowhere to land, and it's 5 days by boat.
So, we're sidestepping just my fascination with geography at the moment. It's where the currents of the ocean just sort of converge.
They just circle, and there's a no wind area in the summers, and it's basically the Kurashiro current from Japan that comes up along Japan, Korea, Alaska, Canada, and the California current, and it goes back out into Hawaii, and where the Mexican current comes up from Baja. And so you just get this big circulation. All big oceans have that. That's just happened to be the biggest one. It doesn't move fast, but it's just...
Can't you like a whirlpool?
Well, it is like a huge whirlpool, but not a fast one, because that kind of moves enough to keep the stuff in there. In fact, after the tsunami in Japan, the 2011 Fukushima, we were the only group with Scripps Oceanography and the scientists from the University of Hawaii. We privately funded 11 sonar buoys that we were trying to drop from a U.S. Air Force craft into the tsunami debris field right after it happened, because it's like a slow-moving glacier out into the ocean, and then you can see where the stuff would have gone. And we couldn't get, U.S. government was low on money at that time in 2008 or 9, and actually 11, that was 2011. We couldn't get the rights to do that through an airplane, so we got a citizen science sailor who brought his boat up from Christmas Island, but it took us 4 months to get this all done. So by then the debris field of the tsunami had dispersed a bit, but we still got into the front line, put the buoys in, and they lasted for over 6 years live on our website. And you could really see how the current flow took some of the things, and some which were quite around out into the middle of the ocean back towards Hawaii, and some got stuck in the eddies of Hawaii. Not close, but when you look on a map, relatively close. So you could really see the ocean when it's worth. It was pretty neat.
How many Ks did they cover? Just out of curiosity.
Thousands.
So one thing that I've taken from that is, if I ever get stranded on a remote island and I decide to save myself, I write a note and I circle it up and I put it in a bottle and I'll let it go. It might get somewhere, or it might just get
caught in the eddy.
Dang it. There goes that strategy.
But you know what? So interesting. The plastic, it moves like a little sailboat. So the more that it floats and the surface area is above the water, the more that it will be like a sailboat and move with the wind. So that will override the currents and the waves. But if it's sinking, and a lot of them are like icebergs and only a little bit is at the top, then it will be more influenced by current and waves. So if you wanted to save yourself, and put a little sail on that bottle so it has a chance to get beyond.
Knows it, mate. Bear Grylls is probably watching this, so it's good for you to know as well, Bear, just in case. Hey, I want to go backwards before we go any further forward. I wrote down, what was there a day that compelled you to become the founder? Because this is all you do, Doug, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, and previously you had a career, you work in corporate, you you're in marketing as well, weren't
Yeah, doing entrepreneurial
you? Yeah, entrepreneurial. Yeah,
startups and
and I have a feeling that entrepreneurial startups outside of the environmental scope might be a little bit easier. Is that? That's not.
particularly in Asia.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yet, so here you are turning your back on that and becoming an environmental entrepreneur, an environmental actionist. What was the moment, or was there a series of moments that compelled you that you couldn't have? Because it's so much easier to just go, "Oh, someone else will look after it," or "I'll just close my eyes to it," and you know what I'll do. I recycle plastic, so I'm doing my bit. You know, it's so easy just to, and it's almost a status role, isn't it? Look at me, everyone, I recycle plastic, or I undo the lid, I squash it down, then I put the lid on, and you know what I mean?
We have a whole campaign for that, get the air out.
Yeah, that's it. That's
Perfect thing, it's safe space.
And I'm not disregarding that that's not important, but my point is, when we do that, oh, well, that's enough.
Yeah.
Whereas you've just gone all in. You've gone up to the pussy's bow, I think is the saying.
Well, that's a great question. And one of the triggers was when I was at a outrigger canoe race in Palau years ago, and maybe 15 years ago, and I was diving on the edge of one of the blue walls, they call it, at the very, very edge of Palau, not near, you couldn't even see other islands. And I was 20 meters down in crystal clear water, and there was plastic suspended at different levels. And I was grabbing it almost like it was from a Christmas tree, and I would just put it into my flotation device. But the question is, where is this stuff coming from? It's 20 meters under the water, 60 feet in crystal blue water, and there's no island, 1 mile away with a bunch of people on it throwing their garbage out. Because this was on one of the edges of the circulation in the southern, in the southern Pacific. And that's when I thought, well, this is a pretty big global problem. But like you said, that not many people are really putting it all together. They do the bit with recycling, which a lot of people say doesn't really work anyway because the systems are not well set up. On that note, all pieces of plastic can be recycled everywhere. There's technology exists. It's the cities that don't have the systems in place to let us get it from A to B to C and have that done. And just the burning and the dumping.
And following that, how many times can plastic be recycled?
Well, yeah, so let's go.
Any idea?
It depends on the type. So the interesting thing these days, if you go from a bottle to a bottle to a bottle, the plastic polymers degrade in their quality. So it's hard to keep going forever. But you certainly can go and make other things. So some people think that recycling has to become the same product that it was when it was a piece of trash. A candy wrapper should be a candy wrapper again. That's not true at all. In fact, a candy wrapper could be an armchair or a floorboarding or something less.
Lane 8 shoes. Apparently there's 14 plastic bottles in every pair of Lane 8 shoes.
Yeah.
Hong Kong brand. Good on you, boys.
Yeah, there you go. So, the point is to get second life plastic, which is any piece of plastic that is done with its use as a wrapper or a product into a new life. Doesn't matter if some people call it downcycling. Downcycling, what does that mean? It means it's less quality than it was at the original product, but this all comes down to branding and marketing. If you brand that thing as the coolest shoe that's ever existed, and it's downcycled from a bottle to fabric, but you sell it for $20,000, is that downcycling or upcycling? Well,
Plastic karma.
You just sold it for more than it was ever worth as a plastic bottle. It's all about marketing and branding. A lot of this. But you got
philosophies with karma. It's gone from a plastic bottle to a pair of shoes.
That's right.
I think that's going on.
That will last
reincarnation.
Another 5 or 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
Where a bottle wouldn't. So just to go on the microfiber side, you mentioned a shirt. It'd take maybe 15 to 20 bottles to make a shirt, a polo shirt. It could be 12 bottles. And then people say, well, if you put it in the wash, there'll be some little microfiber that come off, and therefore we shouldn't do that, and we should not recycle material on our fabric. Well, the world is not a perfect place, and you cannot go from 0 to 100 almost never. Never. We have to remember that. You should not stop innovation because we're afraid of not hitting perfection and the utopian world. So when you take 12 bottles and you put them into a shirt, and the shirt lasts 20 years or 25 years, and maybe during the washing 0.0001% comes out in fibers,
It's better, obviously.
it's better to have it as a shirt and be something that was recycled, and there was demand and someone got paid for collecting it, and it became a new product, which in now was fabric recycling. Even today, but in another 5 or 10 years, you'll be able to probably put it in a vat of liquid and basically dissolve it back to its original fibers. So that problem may also be, the solution for it. But now we can take mixed dirty plastic, which is things like all your candy wrappers and food packaging and stuff that will never get recycled. You can put that into concrete additive,
Really?
asphalt, and this is stuff that's not getting burned for energy. So if you make a concrete building lasts 100 years, you just created value, stored value, which is potentially lighter weight, more insulation, and you've essentially sequestered this material, not in big batches like it's a plastic wall, but 3 or 5%. And the interesting factoid here is if you take all of the plastic ever made every year, which is 400 million tons, and that's made.
How much of that is recycled? 400 million tons.
Less than 15% is recycled. So, and that's dense material.
Yeah,
so imagine making candy wrappers and the blown bottles and all that. The volume of it is enormous. Can't even comprehend what that volume is. But the point is, if you put all of that and you happen to catch all of it from the airplane industry, the medical industry, and the office equipment and computers, you put it all into the world's concrete demand, it's only 3% of annual concrete use. So that means we could catch anything out there, do it in the right way. And plastic does not normally bond with concrete, so you can't just shred it in the little shredder that the guy has in the village and throw it in the concrete block. It will come with a bike. It will degrade quickly. But if you do it in the right way, which one of the companies that we're helping out called CRDC with a product called Resonate, and you extrude it with air pockets in it, very tiny ones, like a lava rock. So the concrete actually binds with it better than sand. And that means you're avoiding the need to actually dredge rivers and beaches and mountainsides for sand.
That's amazing.
So this is all where the world is going, and it's pretty darn interesting. But
check out Doug's eyes.
We're still a long way.
Yeah, okay. But that's the actionist part, isn't it?
The actionist part that we're trying to showcase.
Do you know, I recently interviewed this guy, a dead set, bona fide genius. His name's Ian Mitchell, and he has this company called Wizard Sciences. He makes supplements. But anyway, he essentially invented carbon negative concrete. So all the concrete so 3%. Yeah. When you said all that plastic, that's only 3% comparative concrete. So you can do that concrete off-gassing, creating issues for the environment as well. So this guy has created a carbon negative concrete. Imagine if we combine
absorbs the carbon in the process.
Yeah, can you imagine if we combine these two?
It's already been done.
Too slow. I got to catch up.
Yeah. No, but it's not out in the market yet. It's really just starting, because that's exactly what needs to happen is the carbon sequestration part with this alternative material to some of the concrete, which is plastic. And if you imagine all this plastic that is now being burned and dumped, you don't have to clean it very much. You don't have to sort it. Well, that's where the costs come from recycling. Now you get it into these batches that make the concrete additive or asphalt, make better roads, last longer, less potholes, less wear and tear on the tire, better gas mileage, or electricity mileage. That's what we all need to be sort of thinking about, and not get so worried that that plastic bottle has to be a perfect plastic bottle again in its second or third life. So there are options out there. It's just that we haven't deployed them yet.
All right. Great segue. Let's talk about that again, just for a second. Just to understand, who is the bloke that's doing all this? You said you went to Palau, you were diving, and that was a moment that you just went, I got to do something about this. And then from there, where'd you go?
Well, then we went to the expedition in the Gyre, and we raised money when the U.S. was collapsing in the 2008 stock market crisis.
Who donated? Give me an example. Like 1,000 people gave $10, or 10 people gave 100.
Yeah, obviously expensive. It's $500,000 US to do that kind of trip with
money.
Couple foundations, large, family kind of foundations, which sometimes corporates want to get involved in this.
As a greenwashing, or is there an element of reciprocity that they're expecting?
No, they just want to. They also want to know. They also want to know what the results, are. But this is the challenge in Asia. You mentioned being an entrepreneur in Asia for the environment. The giving world and the donation and supporting world is less in Asia and other, developing places than the West or in Europe or US, where there's a lot of family foundation, and it's quite transparent what people want to give money to or what they're interested in. But anyway, the point is, we raised the money. We did this event. Scripps Oceanography got more press than they've ever gotten in their 50 years, the last 50 years. And I was on their vessel. We had 2 vessels out there at the same time. And just seeing the gravity, it was like we'd gone to the moon. And everyone wanted to see a piece of plastic that came from the middle of the ocean. They wanted to touch it and see it. What does it look like? And I said, well, just go to the beach and pick one up. But exactly. But they wanted the one from the middle of the ocean. And, but that gravity and the press, when I came back to Asia, I could really see that people were hungry and interested. And I never heard of this. What is this? And that's what started us creating events and projects and conferences around this topic, which, like I said, I didn't have a plan, but I could see there was enough momentum to get them funded year to year, and they kind of started becoming annual events, and that's how it went from 0 years to now 12.
And how many years after the Palau diving experience and then off to the plastic vortex, did you just go all in? Up to the Pussy's Bar, we said a minute ago.
Maybe 18 months.
18 months.
It was, I went to the U.S. It was amazing. I met 2 people, never met them in my life. We both had exactly the same ideas, the 3 of us. We each had different things to add to the equation, and we just created it within that weekend. The one of them was a 140-foot tall sailing ship that was being donated for the cause to go out to do the research. That's a big piece of getting one boat already. Is when you rent a research boat, those are the ones that cost a lot of money daily. Running is $25,000 to $30,000 a day just to run those things with staff and petrol and everything. But anyway, point is, we did it, and we did it within 6 months, and then we were in the press, and it was that kind of what launched us, and we were the first scientific mission, real science, because Scripps Oceanography is, it's like NASA for the ocean. So when their data came out, it was harder for industry or other groups to deny there was an issue. Before, it was an NGO kind of sailing issue. Oh, I was out there, hearsay, and I saw this plastic in the ocean. And then people want to say, prove it. Where is it? Prove it. I don't believe you. Prove it. And that's what we did. And that's what's elevated this thing to a really high level.
Wow. So not only environmental actionist, environmental entrepreneur, but an environmental trailblazer. What about that?
Well, yeah, we were the first in the world to create a plastic footprint methodology, which is like carbon footprinting for your office, for your business, a water footprinting. We did that and launched it in 2010, and now it's probably 10 years too early. So sometimes you trailblaze, but it's too early.
That's attraction. Trailblaze, it needs to be patient, mate.
Now everyone talks about the circular economy, and but you don't know what to circulate if you don't have a baseline measurement of what you use in your operation, and that's what our methodology was set out to create. So we've done it with sports events and all kind of different stakeholders, governments, municipal government, companies, schools, universities. It's pretty good. I mean, you kind of need that to analyze your electricity use or your water use or your food use. Or
it makes it objectifiable, which means it can obviously
that you can measure.
Yeah, and then that can
goals for next year.
Yeah, it leads to a strategy, doesn't it?
Right.
Whether it be we need to change something or we need to decrease something, or
right,
we're going to get rid of it.
Find an alternative or something. Yeah.
Well, that's amazing.
So we've done pretty neat things, and we do with stuff with
those three guys. You and the two guys. Are you still?
No, we're not that anymore. After that one event, we went different ways because I was living in Asia, they were in the U.S., and I needed an entity here which could allow donations to come in from schools and the public who cared about what we were doing. So we just separated amicably, and I just went, created Ocean Recovery Lines.
Awesome. Hey, can you share a story, one that you're most proud of? I know there's heaps to but just give us one. A victory story. Well, those kids out there, here it comes. Well, hard work.
Well, there's a couple. One is I'm really proud of what we've done in Cambodia.
Tell us about that.
We went in there in 5 years ago on the Tonle Lake, which is the only lake in the world that rises and falls 6 meters every season. Well, it's 18 feet because the Mekong River floods and recedes, and it's so shallow that the lake grows 16 times in size each season, even though it's not so deep. But when that happens, the plastic comes out from the villages and goes to the lake, and then it comes back in to the villages. And so we created the Water Falling Festival and the Water Rising Festival, not to do cleanups. And this was important. Going into Cambodia as a NGO and a foreigner, you can't just go in and say, oh, we're going to do a cleanup. The river's so dirty, because that doesn't go down well with publicity and tourism and PR. And so I found...
See, you were dirty before we came, and now we're cleaning up. Yeah, I can see that.
So we went in very quietly and unpublicized with my local partner there. And we navigated all of this and had the monks involved right away. And the 98% of the country is Buddhist, so that's a very important angle. Fishermen, village chiefs, kids, and we created a water festival celebration. We did do cleanups, but it wasn't about the cleanup. So a lot of the success in these things really has to do with messaging and wording. 2 years later, the government came in a black car with black windows and sat in the middle of our event for an hour without getting out of the car, just watching everything that was going on, wondering how we were doing this without causing disruption and dismay and pain and, bad names. And now we have really great support from the Ministry of Environment and Ministry of Tourism and that local governor. And we've been doing these events through COVID. We have created a program called Harvest Plastic, where we created giant rice bags, but we branded them about harvesting plastic and not rice from all their households.
Nice.
So they brought them in, and we gave them food baskets and food, especially in COVID lockdown time. They were remote villages. They didn't get the food resources that they couldn't even go, to the stores. And so we created this program, and right away the government said, this is amazing. We want to replicate it and, build it out. So fast forward, we're now doing that, and I've just replicated this year in Lombok. Again, I harvest plastic into villages, and so what we're doing is getting the village community to think about all plastic in the same place, but no food, no other stuff. And that means it's relatively dry, and you can hand sort it as needed once it gets out of the village area. So we have people coming every 2 weeks, drop this stuff off. We have a Willy Wonka prize
Nice.
which is basically a lucky draw.
A golden ticket. The golden little lad.
Every 2 kilos that you bring in, you get a golden ticket. And we give pretty good prizes.
Nice.
Not everyone gets money, but everyone within 1 day stopped burning and dumping in the water.
Well,
and one of the ladies came one day, a few months back, and she wasn't getting any tickets, and her friends just started laughing. Like, where's your tickets? How come you're not going to win anything? Oh, I burned my stuff this morning in my yard like I always do. And her friends just started laughing and said, that's why you have no tickets, because you didn't bring in your plastic. And she was so embarrassed, but immediately learned.
Wow.
All of the burning and dumping is now gone. So now we're getting good quality material that the recyclers and the waste banks want to receive, because it's already decontaminated. It never got contaminated. The other fun thing, I know we didn't have much time, but is...
I got time for all that. These are great stories.
He's created a play. I wrote a play for kids with a rooster as the main character, because every village in the world almost has a rooster. And we're about to do work in the Philippines with the government and, adults. And I thought, wow, how are we going to engage the kids when we're in these kind of dirty river areas? And the rooster came up, because they have them everywhere. And we use what we call eco-repetition, which is the sound of nature making a noise every day, repetitively. And that's a rooster. They will wake you up every morning at 4:30 or 5. So in the play, when the village is sick and the animals are sick and the water's polluted, the rooster comes to the rescue. Cuckoo, cuckoo! Recycle. Don't burn your stuff. Don't throw it in the water. Cuckoo! And the kids hear this, and it's repetitive in their head.
It's like it creates like an anchor.
So when they wake up the next day and the next month, and they hear the rooster, they say to their mom, where do I recycle? I heard the rooster. We got to go do it.
Nice.
So we're using this. It's in 8 languages now, including Swahili. We just did a workshop in Kenya when I was there for the Plastic Treaty event. We had 8 new countries in Africa coming now, want to take our play and make their own versions of it in different African countries. So this is what we're doing, is propagating the rooster. So anyone out there, even in Hong Kong, we need one in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Because these things are great assets when you have a group of any age, but it could be kids, or middle age, teenagers, or young adults. Once you have that, then you can take them to a school, take them to a conference, take them to a business. And then you could start, spreading the word about these other things that we're doing, which is clean the river and collect the plastic and use this machinery and use this policy and whatever.
So now let's go. Amazing. Now let's go to the other side. Just say someone sitting out there is inspired by what you're doing, and they're thinking, you know what, I want to become an environmental actionist. What's this story that you would share with those people where you went, tell you what, he really messed this one up, learned a lot from it, but wish we didn't go down that way?
I actually didn't have any. I
actually didn't have any. There's one that just happened recently. Is that what?
No. The thing is, you as an entrepreneur, you have ideas, and we're trying to design programs or things that will fix something or educate a community, whether it's kids or the government or adult. And often you're always planting the seeds. And you never know when the seed's going to grow, because you don't know when you're going to get funding. You don't know if you're going to get permission. You don't know if you're going to get the right team. And then sometimes they blossom, like right before COVID, they all happened for me in 1 month in November. I had to be in 5 countries, and they were all big projects. And I was leading all of them. And I had a few sports events in that same month. So I was flying at the sports event and go to that thing. And that was chaos. But
success was the chaos.
I couldn't plan for that.
Listen to don't be successful.
No, but sometimes it's annoying that it can take longer than you think. And we just created a big project in Cambodia again called the Inland Ocean Festival. And I had the idea, and it 3 months, and within 3 months we made it all happen. We had 10,000 people on the lake with this big monk festival. So I think what I would suggest to people is don't always take a no for an answer. We use something called creative surprise, I like to say, and it's when you get people engaged and involved. But again, as an actionist, not an activist.
That's important.
Branding is important.
Yeah, marketing, there's your marketing, mate.
When we, sadly, the word ocean in parts of the world, including Asia, triggers a defense mechanism by corporates or government that think that you are an activist, trying to chase them for things they do wrong, because it's just the way things have been, nature and the ocean. So our plastic disclosure project, which was our plastic footprint methodology, we never put in the word ocean anywhere in that marketing, because this was a B2B discussion. You needed to get businesses and governments into the table and have a chance to talk to them for 1 hour. And if they see ocean and plastic on the beach and a dead turtle, they will not have a meeting with you. So a lot of it is creativity and how you can get in and disprove their fear or build their trust and show them that, this is an issue, whatever your cause and issue is. If people say, oh, that's not a problem, it's not a big deal, do a bit of research, but don't always take no as the answer. And, like Cambodia, we didn't even ask anyone. We just did it and prove that it works.
Yeah.
And then you can go to the next level of people and they say, well, we've never done that before. Well, we just did it and look how great it was. Here's our photos. Here's our video. And then all of a sudden the snowball starts working. So sometimes you have to be navigate discreetly. But when you really know it's a good thing and you're not, trying to attack someone and make them look bad, if it's all the good results are going to come out, the kids are happy, the people learned, the great videos, good PR, then it's really easier to keep that thing growing and build the momentum. So that's what we're always trying to do.
Would that also, if I was to ask the question, what would be your words of advice? Would it be that? Would you say, hey, skip back the last 10 minutes and listen to this again? Or would there be something else that you've learned on the way? That would be words. It's someone that wants to be the next Doug Woodring. Doug Woodring. Good laugh. Let's see you keep up with Doug in the water. Someone that is seriously inspired by what you've done. You're changing lives. You're changing the environment, which has a direct effect on healthy environment, healthy body. Let's say.
So I think not everyone is. Everyone has their different pros and cons, and good at certain things. Some are great at math. Some are great at singing. Some are great at science. Some are great at socializing or translating. And I'm in a lot of different sectors of life, the sports sector, business sector, the environment sector, and they often don't always meet with one another. But in the science sector, for example, one of the challenges with science is you get a really amazing research and knowledge and scientific data, but it's not translated well into the common world, so we can use that data and decide that this is dangerous for our health, or that we need to slow down climate change a lot more than we thought. And as things get stuck in big, tomes and books and research papers, and the rest of the world doesn't always get the benefit of that knowledge. And I think just because of my travel, being in Hong Kong, you meet people from all over the world here. Some people say, why are you here? Why are you in the U.S. fundraising? Well, I could probably raise more funds there, but there's less impact I can make there. When I'm out here, we can do so many more things. We're close to all the action. In fact, on this topic, we're really one of the first NGOs that's been looking at plastic pollution on a global scale, global policy thinking, almost than anyone in the world, because all the others are from the Western countries and they still have all their offices there, which means that day to day, we're getting to see all of the local stuff, which is where you really need to be able to play to bring in the big impacts. Because as you asked at the very beginning, the Western countries, they have the waste management. It's not working so well for recycling, but it gets the stuff off the street and people don't feel the pain. And so the benefit of being in Hong Kong is you've got global, international thinkers, companies, brands, and the chance to then go and find a partner, find a collaborator in some of these other places. Hong Kong's not a bad place for that. It's very tough to raise money. I mean, that's a different topic. But as you said, what can people do? I think I was going to go back to the translating side. Find someone who, if you're not good at translating, I don't mean literally language to language, but just being able to share your story with enough oomph that you can attract attention from the right different audiences and stakeholders that can get your cause some shape and some gravity. And if you're not that exact person, try to find someone who can help you to create your story and create your case. And don't try to knock the ball out of the park, as they say in baseball, which I'm not a big fan, but, don't try to hit a home run right away, but just prove your concepts and prove your programs at a smaller scale. These days with social media, with photos and video, it's quite easy to escalate your success and your good story. You can interview people. You can do so many things just on your iPhone and tell you the stories. Yeah. And then you get a little social media page and you show people this is what we're doing, and this is how you can get started. So it's easier now. It is. It's easier now than when I started, for sure. But the world needs people to get on the team, and the world has a lot of challenges. And like you said, people think they do their own thing, they recycle, and they feel good about it. But they walk on the street, they see it on there, they think in their head, "Oh, that's not so nice," but someone's going to come pick it up later, so I don't have to do it. If we all think like that, we're going to go nowhere fast. Yeah. And
how's your, I guess you could say, current belief in humanity and mankind? Like, just say what you're doing. I'm assuming there will be. You've already touched on, you need to have a level of patience, but I'm assuming that sometimes that might be coupled with a level of frustration, in the sense of, in my head, I'm going through a little thought experiment of, can't you see how dangerous this is to the environment, and can't you see that an unhealthy environment will lead to unhealthy children, for example? There, we can draw that together with confidence. But why isn't anyone doing anything about this? And then you step back and you think, well, that was a terrible exchange, and these people aren't going to do anything about it. Humanity be damned. I'm going to be overly theatrical potentially, but if I switch the question to you along the way, maybe you can tell us a couple of times, but your current belief in humanity, we're doing all right, you reckon? Or, come on guys, we really need to pick up the pace here, or we stand in front of the mirror and go, what do you want?
Yeah, I say we really need to pick up the pace a lot. Yeah. All the technologies are out there to fix whatever we want, but there's always the issues of cost and regulation. If things are not regulated, then you have cheaters in the system. So there's the good guys want to do it the right way, but then the other ones coming under and undercutting the price, and policymakers are not strong enough to go against the lobbyists. Just the ecosystem that we are killing, either through overeating, overcatching, overpolluting. People don't see this. We're basically the frog in the boiling pot right now on any issue. That's a thing that can't be solved on, mate, or a bit of flame just a bit. No. It's but so some people looking out over the edge, wondering if they should jump. But having said that, well, this is the thing. It's, I read this amazing book when I was about 7 or 8 years old called The Wump World, and I would suggest any parent to have their kid read this book. It was about exactly this, that this green planet with these big, like Pacawari, those giant guinea pigs from Brazil. They were living in this great space, eating all the grass and drinking all the great river water. And the pollutions came from the planet of Plutus. And the pollutions came and they build cities and they build highways and the cement. Basically, you just look on Google Earth, it's exactly what's happening today. And then there's a few people who said, oh, we got to go to Mars. We got to go up there and move our houses away. And the pollutions finally left the cement because they got sick, unhealthy, had nothing else to live on, and moved out of this island of the lump world. And then the cement started breaking, cracking. Guys came out of their caves, and all of a sudden, the grass started growing again, and nature's back. So nature will survive. We might not.
Yeah.
But having said that, I don't get caught up in the micro context of worrying. If you get too negative and say, oh, we'll never do this, then you lose hope and then you lose faith and you just say, why am I wasting my time? I didn't even think about that. I just say, these guys need help. We could do a cool program there. This can make a big impact. Cambodia now is showing Lombok what to do, and soon it could be the Philippines and Kenya. And all of a sudden you're getting these things happening, and it's making great progress. So within the zone that I'm working and we're working, I see all kind of amazing things.
Yeah,
but in the macro sense, none of us has the power to flick the switch and just make it perfect. So you just got to ride the wave and try to create that bigger wave that's going to have a ripple effect and, get many people. And I think I really see that's what we're doing is now finally getting that kind of traction. But again, how long is a piece of string? If you don't have a lot of funding and resources, makes it just take that much longer to get there. And that's always been the case because we do a lot of things in different places. It's hard to get one audience who says, oh, I want to help you with all of them. You say, oh, I'll just help you with this one. I'll just help you with this one.
Yeah.
This is in my territory, just help you with this one. So it's complex.
And recently you were in Nairobi, correct?
Correct.
What was that? Can you tell
That was called the UN Plastic Treaty.
And UN Plastic Treaty. Doug Woodring, can you tell us what to do, mate?
Yeah, I was happy. This was like a big win, actually, because I got... So the UN Plastic Treaty is a negotiation, 180, 200 countries 3 years ago, all agreed we need a plastic treaty to slow down plastic pollution. We want to figure this out within 2 years. And so every 6 months, starting a year ago, we just finished the third meeting. Every 6 months, they have a big meeting. All the global countries come, all the stakeholders, NGOs, and companies come together and share ideas. Many cooks in the kitchen. Very complicated. But they're trying to make this treaty happen within 2 years. We're halfway through. So Nairobi was our last event 2 weeks ago. The next one will be Canada in April and then Korea in November. I don't know if it's going to happen, but the point is 4 years ago, no one was talking about a treaty. And no governments really put enough spark into this as a national issue for their own government. Now, 200 of them have negotiating teams in these UN events trying to figure out what the heck plastic is all about and are getting up to speed pretty fast. So now we have 200 countries who are ready to do a treaty. And regardless of what the end solution is, you've already advanced this discussion so far that now they're going to be good countries who say, I'm a good citizen on the block, Costa Rica, Norway. I'm going to do these amazing things and others can follow us. The other guys might say, oh, we don't have to wait that. We don't have to do it quite yet. But there will still be someone in the Ministry of Environment and Ministry of Commerce who said, well, we signed on this treaty. We have to develop these. We have to meet these goals in 5 years or 3 years, whatever the term is.
And you were here, Doug.
So I got to speak at one of these side events, and I didn't apply to speak, which made me, more interested. I did apply to speak in Paris, but there's so many people wanting to talk about their issues that I just didn't get picked on that topic. And I got picked, and then, we're talking about something that a lot of people don't fully understand, and it goes back to the circular economy and the movement of recycling. A lot of people, unfortunately, in the environmental community have been dismissing recycling as an option, and that it's not working because trust has been broken around the world, including Hong Kong, that you spend time to put your stuff in the bin, and then the truck comes and puts it all together, and people see it's not working. I don't see how the recycling happens. And so people have lost faith. And like I said at the beginning, the waste management systems really weren't set up for plastic. Doesn't mean it can't happen. A lot of this is societal change has to happen, like our Harvest Plastic. They had nothing, so we can go in with a clean slate, say, pick all of your plastic up, and the other stuff will work itself out because there's room for that. But get this stuff out of, the waste zone, and then we could handle it. And this is what we're doing in places where they've never had anything. So
we're going to drop a rooster in the middle of Hong Kong. We're going to drop a rooster in the middle of New York.
We'll be on the IFC.
We're going to start breeding roosters, mate.
And Broadway.
Yeah.
Believe me, it's coming. Yeah. But the thing is, trade, circular economy. People say, oh, we need a circular economy. You build something, make something, and tear it apart and put it back in again. But is that domestic? Is it provincial? Is it county? Or is it global? And then if something like plastic, most countries in the world do not have the recycling and the waste management and the manufacturing to absorb the plastic. But they import it from all the companies around the world. Yeah. Your candy bars and your hamburgers and your drinks and they all go to the islands and they all go to the countries, and then those countries have nowhere to put it. So if we tell them they can't trade it to someone who can recycle it, then it's like locking in their garbage in their front yard and they have no resources, so they're going to dump it and burn it.
Yeah.
And the waste trade got a bad name because there was traders who were selling stuff mainly to China. China was buying everything when the manufacturing was growing so fast. They could recycle anything and put it into good use. But they got sent a lot of garbage that wasn't so usable. And then the local guys who were the not true recyclers, they were just the scavengers sorting the material, would just dump that. And then China said, this is too much. We can't control it. Yeah. We don't want it to happen. But trade with legitimate qualification of the materials, legitimate checking, which never used to happen 5 years ago. If you can do all that, then the countries of Fiji and Samoa and Cambodia and in Africa, they can be gathering and using all these little machines you asked me about, the shredders and the grinders in the villages, and start feeding into the global supply chain to the guys who can start recycling. And no one at the UN has ever talked about this, because mostly what they're trying to do is prevent, slow down, and find alternatives for plastic. But they've not spent time talking about recycling and all of the inventory of that stuff that's already in the world today, and which will keep coming till the magic bullet comes.
The magic bullet. How far away are we from the magic bullet, huh?
Plastic.
The rooster is the magic bullet. Anyway, sorry. What I was going to say, I met this guy recently. His name's Jamie Hunt. He was one of the founders of 2XU. Anyway, he built up 2XU. He sold that company and did a great job. And then now he started another company called Pressio. And from my understanding, top to bottom, it's incredibly environmentally conscious. Even to the factories that are using powered by solar, like he has this 5-step process. It was actually super inspiring and amazing, man. Are there companies out there that you've come across that you go, mate, this is a beacon, this is a shining light of what we can do? And because, if you're a company, the DNA of a company is that it needs to generate a level of risk income to be able to, I got to be able to have staff and a team that can keep the lights going so we can keep to do great work for people and make people get better, fitter, faster, stronger, whatever it is that and the other stuff that we do here at John Dynamics. So when you apply a corporate angle to everything that you spoke about, and then it's great if these companies can make money. I'm inspired by Patagonia, but I don't know a lot of it. I love their origin story, and I love when they came to that crisis moment, and the founder of Patagonia took his team down to Patagonia for 12 days and locked them in and said, you know what, we're going to do this, and change. Didn't take advice from someone who was trying to break the company up and sell it. It was a beautiful story. I loved it. But are there companies that you've come in contact with recently today, or that you've over your experience, that you've gone, you know what, these guys are doing it right, and if only we could take inspiration, be a little bit more like them. They're cash flow positive. They're growing. They're doing a great thing for the environment. Are there any that you've come across?
Well, there's a lot of, I'd say, the B Corps, and the smaller. It's easier to do as a startup, newer company because you have less. You can plan.
Change is hard.
All of the bigger companies out there, they've been in business for decades, and they have supply chains everywhere, and it's very hard to just flick a switch and go backwards. And they make billions of products, and billions of people need them and use them, and it's hard to just change that quickly. So, also the stock market. Dell did a very interesting thing 10 or so years ago. They went private, and when you go private, you don't have to do quarterly reporting. And we actually helped them do something on the net benefit analysis, because they were spending more money to put recycled content in their packaging and their computers. And they knew that they needed to spend more money to get the right material. But because they were private, they didn't have to answer to the stock market and the analysts who were asking, where's your margins and how come you're not making so much money? When in their heart, they said, we need to do the right thing, and we will spend the money to then start the economies of scale that change.
Well,
that's what we need. And this is a problem with finance, because we're driving each other down. Lower margin.
Yeah, race to the bottom, isn't it?
It's a race to the bottom.
Yeah.
Go to the other country that has less environmental controls, less labor issues, and bottom, we hollow out the U.S., for example, with the manufacturing.
Australia's the same, mate. We make next to nothing now.
Yeah. So fast forward to fixing all of this, going private or doing, and when you're starting your own company from fresh or you're newish, it's easier to now get the best material. Think about your supply chain. Where is it being made? How is it being shipped? Do I use solar? Do I use hydrogen? All these things are now really opportunities for the newer companies and big ones. If a big one makes a change like that across the world, bang, that's a big impact. But it's just they're a little bit slower to move on those kind of large scale modifications. But sometimes just a small modification can make a giant difference. So again, it's going to the innovation of recycled content in materials. If we worry about tiny little things, we're killing the chance for innovation. Biomaterial, biopackaging, it may be made from plants or algae. And then some people say, well, it doesn't biodegrade in fast enough. It takes 2 years. Well, normal petroleum plastic might take 400 years. 2 years is pretty.
The net gain of 390 days.
Darn good, but we shouldn't pull the rug out from under the innovator and say you don't get to do it because it's not biodegrading fast enough. Because if he has no market to sell to, he has no way to keep innovating and keep the market going and create the need for industrial composters, which the cities could be putting in if there was a lot of biomaterial in the market. If biomaterial can't get in the market, no one's going to build a composter. And chicken and egg and the rooster has to come back and crow again.
Wake us up. That's actually the most powerful message I've taken from this conversation. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then something is better than nothing.
Yes.
Leading towards something more.
Yes.
Because it's so easy to be a naysayer and go, well, that's not perfect.
Yeah.
You know, I've even heard it in regards to these shoes. Well, once they've become shoes, what do they become next? They can't be recycled again. Yeah, okay, but we've taken our step.
You just created the need for no virgin leather and no other materials now avoided using something that was garbage, which is a plastic bottle, and now you're going to use it for another 15 years. And it might be passed on again.
Yeah.
Or you can grind it up and turn it into the next thing, which is could even be in the concrete. So, you know, we got to let these things happen and not be the exact perfectionists, which is...
that's immobilizing for a lot of people too, isn't it?
Yeah. And that goes to your, point about what do new people do coming into this place is, you can't be necessarily go from 0 to 100 right away. And you got to look for your wins and create that momentum and create those ripples that get you to the next one and the next one, and you push the snowball over the mountain, and then it starts rolling on its own.
Yeah, mate, let's make this super practical to wind it up. So joint dynamics, what can I, for example, so in our, we're starting, we're doing the best we can at the moment. It's not perfect. But in our bathroom, so we're using Dr. Bronner's soap. So it's a good product. It's no petrochemicals. It's good for us. And then recently we've switched over our spray. Mate, during COVID, we were spraying so much
wipes. There's wipes. Not degradable or anything.
But it's what our clients needed. So it's what the government was pressing upon us. So we were using bleach, and so changed over to, it's a Hong Kong company, so it's a local company. It's called Island Life, and they're an environmentally conscious, environmentally sustainable. The products, the fish aren't choking because of these sprays. And then now the next change, the pump soap, we're changing over to use their soaps as well. So it's 3 steps that we've taken. We're doing our best. And of course, there's economical costs involved, so we're weighing everything up. But at this stage, those are the 3 things that we're doing. And it's stoked because Island Life is a local company as well. So I'm even happier and he's a great bloke. What would be a step that you could, if you looked around and you saw joint dynamics, would you just say, like, don't use mine, but you can? Yeah. Andrew, there should be a plastic recycling bin. And then I'd go, yeah, but Doug wouldn't know where to take it. Who would do that? Like, what would be something that you believe would be successful that a company like Joint Dynamics could do?
Well, I mean, I don't have the answer exactly because you're not a consumer. You're not selling products and things, okay. So you're probably not using a lot of packaging. And let's take a sports event. If you go to a triathlon or running race, swim race, they give out 1,000 T-shirts, 5,000 T-shirts. Every one of those T-shirts comes wrapped in a plastic bag because it came out of China, individually wrapped. Okay, first thing, as the event organizer buying their shirts, you tell them, you don't need everyone wrapped in a plastic bag. Give me 100 in one box in a larger bag, so you decrease that.
That's cool.
But if you're doing the T-shirts and they happen to come, which it's happening with some of our races, we take them all out of the plastic before the event happens and make sure there's nowhere to be seen in the event area because the wind will take it, or people don't know where to throw it. So, just be thinking of your packaging, what you're selling, how is it presented? Do people have to have something in their hand to throw away when they open up what you want them to use? And then this goes to other people, your clients who might be purchasing. This is a bit like the Dell story. If we don't have the guts to make change and realize that economies of scale will come when people buy more and demand more. If no one's going to be the first demanders, we're never going to get the economies of scale. We're all sitting there waiting because the accountants and the people managing money say, oh, you can't spend 1 cent more on this package or this change because it will cost too much. And we never get the innovation to happen. We're too worried about money. Okay, if you worry about the environment, it's not going to be free just to fix it and be healthy. There's got to be money spent somewhere. So be the one.
Should be embedded into the cost of this.
This should be embedded in the product. So, but if you're going to buy things, ask if it can be made from recycled content. If you're buying 1,000 chairs for your offices, write in the spec, whoever's going to sell them to you, that they have to be 10 or 20% recycled content in the frame, in the desk. I mean, when you start thinking of that, you as a buyer, you have some say because you're the one who wants to buy the product. Get the guys selling the materials to start thinking that you want something new, whether it's biodegradable, something without the package, give it to me without the wrapping. Start asking these questions, and that can make a big difference.
We vote with our wallet.
Yeah, but be engaged and be thoughtful in what you're thinking about and why, and tell them why. I was at this Monterey Bay Aquarium, nice restaurant right next to it, a bar, and I was there for a plastic conference to speak about plastic in aquariums, just like at your gym. How can aquariums, who see a lot of people, millions of people every year, learning about the ocean, what can the aquarium do to be less plastic? This was 8 years ago. They hadn't even thought about this yet. The bar was just putting straws in every single drink. And I said, why don't you just default to have no straws? And then if someone asks you for a straw, then you can give them one. But if you default the other way and just say, because people will think that you forgot one and that you're giving them bad service. Because, switch it the other way around.
Yeah.
And put a notice up and say, we're so proud, we don't have straws. And if you really want one and you don't want lipstick to get on your glass or whatever the issue is, we'll give you a straw. But, sometimes we got to go through a little bit of thinking, but be creative and have fun with it.
Yeah.
And people
don't make people feel bad as well.
Yeah, don't make them feel bad.
Yeah.
Feel like they'll be, this is so true. I agree. I will do it. I didn't think of that before. And you could have fun with some messaging, probably in your bathroom and probably where people use stuff, and say, hey,
I'll take that on, mate.
Yeah.
Hey, where would we find you if we wind this up?
oceanrecov.org.
oceanrecov.org.
But that's our main website, like Ocean Recovery Alliance, but Recov. We have an app called Global Alert. Lets you report trash hotspots anywhere in the world's waters. It's like Waze for traffic. It's in Spanish, English, and we just put in Bahasa Indonesian. Mainly meant for rivers and creeks, so we don't use it that much in Hong Kong because we don't have that waterway system. But in many countries, they do have that. And what we're trying to incentivize people to put up booms and nets and catchment devices to get the surface water clean, because then you're building trust about the waterway and the government. So oceanrecover.org, we're on the social media pages. We don't spam, but we're there. So find us.
Nice.
Thanks for having us.
So glad I found you for this conversation. Another Hong Kong hero, mate. That's what I'm going to say. And thank you for joining Doug and I. I had a great time, and I learned a lot as well. Massive thanks to Monday Live. Thank you, Wilson, for getting behind this so we can get out on YouTube and launch. Let's call this our Inside Scoop series. Let's do 3, 4, Wilson, whatever you want to do, mate. I'm having a great time. With people from Hong Kong doing great things globally, sharing the message such as Doug. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Aaron. Good to be here.
Thank you, guys. Soon. See ya.